The Forgotten Frontier. The vast emptiness of space stretched before Lina Reyes like an infinite canvas of midnight blue and scattered starlight. Her fingers danced across the holographic display of the Pathfinder 7, a state-of-the-art cartography vessel designed to map the most remote corners of unexplored space. At 32, Lina had already carved out a reputation as one of the most daring and innovative explorers in the United Stellar Cartography Division. The ship's gentle hum was her constant companion, a rhythmic heartbeat that had kept her company through countless missions. This particular expedition was different. The star system designated as Omega 742 had remained a mysterious blank spot on humanity's cosmic map for decades. Previous probes had returned incomplete data, their signals disrupted by strange electromagnetic interference that defied standard communication protocols. "Computer, run another diagnostic on the long-range scanners," Lina commanded, her voice steady but tinged with anticipation. The monotone AI responded immediately, its circuits humming with computational precision. "Scanning in progress, Lieutenant Reyes. Anomalous energy signatures detected in the third quadrant of Omega 742C. Lina leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing. The moon they were approaching wasn't like anything in the standard planetary catalogs. Its surface appeared to shimmer with an almost metallic quality, reflecting light in ways that challenged conventional understanding of planetary geology. A sudden burst of static erupted from the communication panel. Lina's hand instinctively moved to stabilize the systems, her years of training kicking in with practiced efficiency. "Maintain course," she muttered to herself, though no one else was aboard to hear her. The Pathfinder 7 was designed for solo missions, a testament to the advanced autonomous systems that humanity had developed. Yet in this moment, Lina felt a creeping sense of isolation that went beyond the usual solitude of deep space exploration. Without warning, a violent tremor rocked the ship. Alarms blared, their piercing sounds cutting through the previously calm environment. "Hull integrity compromised," the computer announced. "Multiple system failures detected." Lina's hands flew across the control panel, her movements a blur of calculated precision. Years of training and countless simulations had prepared her for emergency scenarios, but this was different. The ship's systems were failing in ways that defied logical explanation. Initiating emergency landing protocols, she spoke clearly, her voice cutting through the cacophony of alarms. The moon's surface rushed up to meet her, a landscape of metallic plains and jagged crystalline formations that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The impact was jarring. Lina was thrown forward, her safety harness the only thing preventing her from being crushed against the control panel. When she finally looked up, the ship's interior was a maze of sparking circuits and fractured displays. "Damage report," she commanded, wiping a trickle of blood from her forehead. The computer's response was grim. "Primary systems, 78% non-functional. Communication array, destroyed. Propulsion, critical failure. Estimated survival time, 72 hours with current life support reserves." Lina took a deep breath. She wasn't the type to surrender, especially not to a situation that seemed determined to break her spirit. The moon's surface outside was alien and forbidding, a landscape of metallic plains that reflected the starlight in impossible patterns. Her survival kit was compact but comprehensive. Years of exploration had taught her the value of being prepared. As she began to assess her resources, a strange energy reading caught her attention. Something beneath the moon's surface was active, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost intentional. Not just another dead rock, Lina whispered to herself, a hint of excitement breaking through her professional composure. Whatever had caused her crash was more than a random malfunction. This was something else entirely. Little did Lina know that her unexpected arrival was about to set in motion a series of events that would challenge everything humanity understood about their place in the universe. Stranded with limited resources and no way to call for help, she would soon discover that survival was about to become far more complicated than any mission she had ever undertaken. The moon of Omega 742c held secrets, and it was waiting to be discovered. Shadows of the unknown. The metallic landscape of Omega 742c seemed to breathe with an otherworldly pulse. Lena had spent the first 12 hours of her stranded mission methodically assessing her damaged ship and preparing for survival. Her standard-issue environmental suit protected her from the moon's unpredictable atmosphere, a mix of rare gases and electromagnetic interference that had initially disrupted her ship's systems. Krull watched from a safe distance, his biomechanical exosuit blending perfectly with the moon's crystalline terrain. A scout from the Vornak Collective, he had been monitoring this sector for cycles, what humans would measure as months. The unexpected arrival of a human vessel was both a curiosity and a potential threat. The Vornak were a species of technological nomads, driven by an ancient directive to observe and protect strategic cosmic territories. Krull's current mission involved studying the unique energy signatures of this particular moon, signatures that now seemed to be reacting to the human's presence in ways he hadn't anticipated. Lena's communication with her ship's damaged computer was becoming increasingly difficult. Power was draining, and the strange electromagnetic fields surrounding her seemed to interfere with even the most basic technological communications. She had noticed movement at the edge of her vision, something that didn't quite match the moon's rocky terrain. "I know you're out there," Lena spoke loudly, her voice calm but firm. Years of exploration had taught her that unexpected encounters rarely benefited from showing fear. "I'm not here to cause trouble." Krull's translation matrix picked up her words, converting them through multiple linguistic algorithms. Humans were rare in this sector, rare and unpredictable. His people had strict protocols about non-intervention, but something about this human's presence triggered an unusual response in the moon's underlying energy grid. A sudden surge of energy erupted from beneath the moon's surface. Crystalline formations began to shift and realign, creating patterns that defied natural geological processes. Lena's environmental suit's sensors went haywire, displaying readings that made no scientific sense. "Stabilize," she muttered to herself, tapping the side of her helmet. The suit's systems flickered, caught between normal functioning and complete shutdown. Krull knew this was no ordinary occurrence. The moon of Omega 742c was more than a celestial body. It was a complex system with its own form of intelligence. And now, this human's presence had awakened something dormant. With calculated movements, Krull began to approach Lena's position. His exosuit's advanced camouflage technology made him nearly invisible against the metallic landscape. But Lena was more observant than the average explorer. A slight shimmer in the air, a disruption in the light's reflection. She noticed. "Who are you?" Lena called out, reaching slowly for the emergency pulse weapon attached to her suit's utility belt. Krull's translation matrix processed her words, converting them into a series of clicks and harmonic tones that represented communication in his native language. "Observer," he responded, the word emerging through his suit's external speakers in heavily accented English. The moon continued to pulse around them. Energy readings spiked, creating intricate patterns that seemed to dance between the metallic surface and the crystalline formations. Something was happening, something that neither the human nor the Vornak scout fully understood. Lena took a careful step forward. "I'm Lena Reyes, United Stellar Cartography. My ship is damaged, and I'm seeking assistance or a way to communicate with my base." Krull's response was measured. "Assistance requires negotiation. This territory is restricted." A massive energy surge erupted between them, creating a barrier of crackling electromagnetic force. The moon itself seemed to be responding to their presence, creating a complex interaction that defied conventional understanding of planetary behavior. Survival would require more than individual skill. It would demand cooperation, understanding, and a willingness to look beyond the boundaries of known scientific principles. The dance between human determination and alien mystery was just beginning. Unbroken spirits. The energy barrier between Lena and Krull crackled with an intensity that defied natural physics. What had begun as a tense standoff was rapidly evolving into something far more complex. Lena's scientific training kicked into overdrive, her mind racing to understand the phenomenon surrounding them. "This isn't random," she muttered, careful to keep her voice low. The moon's surface continued to pulse and shift, crystalline structures realigning in patterns that suggested an underlying intelligence. Krell's exosuit detected minute changes in the electromagnetic field. His people had studied this moon for generations, but never had they witnessed such a dramatic response to an external presence. The human's arrival had triggered something profound. "Explain your purpose," Krell demanded, his translation matrix rendering the words with a mechanical precision that barely masked an underlying curiosity. Lena understood diplomacy was her best tool. "Exploration," she responded carefully. "Mapping unknown regions of space. My ship was damaged, not intentionally." A series of low-frequency vibrations emanated from the moon's surface. Both Lena and Krell felt them more than heard them, a resonance that seemed to pulse through their very molecular structure. The crystalline formations began to shift, creating intricate geometric patterns that looked almost like a language. "Communication?" Lena asked, her hand instinctively moving to a data recording device on her suit. Krell's response was immediate. "Negative. Preliminary analysis suggests reactive environmental response." But they both knew something more was happening. The moon was responding to their presence in ways that defied conventional scientific understanding. Energy readings spiked, creating corridors of light that seemed to connect the various crystalline structures. Survival became their immediate priority. Lena's ship was critically damaged, her life support systems slowly failing. Krell's mission protocols typically prevented direct intervention with non-Vornak entities, yet the moon's behavior was forcing a reconsideration of standard operating procedures. "We require shelter," Krell stated, more a observation than a request. "Environmental conditions becoming unstable." Lena nodded, her survival training overriding any initial mistrust. "My ship's emergency shelter module is still functional. Limited space, but it'll protect against the current energy fluctuations." As they moved, the moon seemed to respond. Crystalline pathways formed almost like a guide, creating the most efficient route to Lena's damaged spacecraft. It was as if the entire planetary body was orchestrating their movement. Inside the ship's emergency shelter, Lena began a careful assessment of their situation. Limited oxygen, minimal power reserves, and an increasingly unstable external environment. Her hands moved quickly, reconfiguring available resources. "Your technology," Krell observed, watching her work. "Improvisation beyond standard protocols." A hint of a smile crossed Lena's face. "Humans are good at finding solutions. When something breaks, we don't just give up." Krell's translation matrix captured more than just the words. It detected the underlying emotion. Determination. A concept not entirely foreign to the Vornak, but rarely expressed with such individual intensity. The moon continued its strange dance outside. Energy waves rolled across its surface, creating patterns that looked almost like communication. Something was awakening, something that had remained dormant for perhaps millennia. "This moon," Lena said, connecting various sensor readings, "it's more than just a planetary body. It's responding to us, to our presence." Krell's suit ran complex analysis algorithms. "Agreed. But to what purpose?" As if in response, a massive energy surge erupted nearby. The crystalline structures outside began to reconfigure, creating what looked like intricate technological interfaces. Information seemed to flow through these formations, data streams that neither Lena nor Krell could fully comprehend. Survival was no longer just about individual preservation. They were now witnesses to something far greater, a cosmic mystery that challenged everything they understood about planetary intelligence, technological interaction, and the very nature of communication. The moon of Omega 742c had chosen to reveal its secrets, and Lena Reyes and Krell were its unexpected audience. The convergence. The emergency shelter of Lena's damaged ship had become an unlikely sanctuary of cooperation. Hours had passed since their initial encounter, and the strange energy pulses of the moon continued to create an ever-changing landscape outside their fragile refuge. Krell's advanced scanning equipment had begun to reveal layers of complexity about the moon that defied previous scientific understanding. These energy signatures, he muttered, more to himself than to Lena, they're not random. There's a pattern, a language of sorts. Lena leaned closer to the holographic display, her fingers tracing the intricate energy map. It's like the moon is trying to communicate, she observed, but not in any way we've ever seen before. A sudden tremor shook the ship. The crystalline formations outside began to realign with increased intensity, creating corridors of light that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. Krell's exosuit sensors went into overdrive, displaying a cascade of data that threatened to overwhelm its processing capabilities. Warning, the suit's AI intoned. External energy convergence imminent. Lena's hand instinctively reached for her emergency communication device, though she knew the chances of a signal breaking through the moon's electromagnetic interference were virtually non-existent. "We're about to experience something significant," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and survival instinct. The moon's surface began to transform. Crystalline structures merged and separated, creating what looked like massive technological interfaces. It was as if the entire planetary body was reconfiguring itself, responding to their presence in ways neither human nor Vornak technology could fully comprehend. "Your species," Krell began, his translation matrix working overtime to convey nuanced communication. "How often do you encounter such phenomena?" Lena chuckled, a burst of humor breaking through the tension. "Never. This is completely unprecedented." A massive energy surge erupted, momentarily blinding their sensors. When the display cleared, they realized the ship's emergency shelter was no longer stationary. The moon was moving them, purposefully and with calculated precision. "We're being transported," Lena said, her scientific mind racing to process the impossible. "But to where?" Krell's response was measured. Not a where, perhaps a when. The crystalline formations began to create intricate holographic projections. Historical records, technological blueprints, and what appeared to be cosmic migration patterns flooded their visual field. It was a download of information so vast and complex that it threatened to overwhelm their cognitive capabilities. Lena recognized fragments, technological designs that seemed centuries beyond current human understanding, cosmic migration routes that suggested intelligent design on a galactic scale. "This is impossible," she whispered, though her scientific mind knew that impossible was just a limitation of current knowledge. The moon continued its transformation. What had appeared to be a simple planetary body was revealing itself as something far more complex, a living repository of cosmic knowledge, a technological ecosystem that defied traditional understanding of planetary science. "We are being evaluated," Krell stated, his suit's sensors picking up subtle energy fluctuations. "Not threatened. Assessed." Lena nodded. The moon was testing them, testing their capacity to understand, to adapt, to comprehend something far beyond their current technological and cognitive limitations. As the crystalline structures continued to shift and merge, creating ever more complex interfaces, Lena and Krell found themselves at the center of a cosmic convergence. Two species, brought together by chance, and now witnesses to a revelation that would challenge everything they understood about the universe. The moon of Omega 742c was no longer just a destination. It had become a gateway to what neither of them could yet comprehend. The convergence. The emergency shelter of Lena's damaged ship had become an unlikely sanctuary of cooperation. Hours had passed since their initial encounter, and the strange energy pulses of the moon continued to create an ever-changing landscape outside their fragile refuge. Krell's advanced scanning equipment had begun to reveal layers of complexity about the moon that defied previous scientific understanding. "These energy signatures," he muttered, more to himself than to Lena. They're not random. There's a pattern, a language of sorts. Lena leaned closer to the holographic display, her fingers tracing the intricate energy map. It's like the moon is trying to communicate, she observed, but not in any way we've ever seen before. A sudden tremor shook the ship. The crystalline formations outside began to realign with increased intensity, creating corridors of light that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. Krell's exosuit sensors went into overdrive, displaying a cascade of data that threatened to overwhelm its processing capabilities. Warning, the suit's AI intoned. External energy convergence imminent. Lena's hand instinctively reached for her emergency communication device, though she knew the chances of a signal breaking through the moon's electromagnetic interference were virtually non-existent. "We're about to experience something significant," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and survival instinct. The moon's surface began to transform. Crystalline structures merged and separated, creating what looked like massive technological interfaces. It was as if the entire planetary body was reconfiguring itself, responding to their presence in ways neither human nor Vornak technology could fully comprehend. "Your species," Krall began, his translation matrix working overtime to convey nuanced communication. "How often do you encounter such phenomena?" Lena chuckled, a burst of humor breaking through the tension. "Never. This is completely unprecedented." A massive energy surge erupted, momentarily blinding their sensors. When the display cleared, they realized the ship's emergency shelter was no longer stationary. The moon was moving them, purposefully and with calculated precision. "We're being transported," Lena said, her scientific mind racing to process the impossible. "But to where?" Krell's response was measured. Not a where, perhaps a when. The crystalline formations began to create intricate holographic projections. Historical records, technological blueprints, and what appeared to be cosmic migration patterns flooded their visual field. It was a download of information so vast and complex that it threatened to overwhelm their cognitive capabilities. Lena recognized fragments, technological designs that seemed centuries beyond current human understanding, cosmic migration routes that suggested intelligent design on a galactic scale. "This is impossible," she whispered, though her scientific mind knew that impossible was just a limitation of current knowledge. The moon continued its transformation. What had appeared to be a simple planetary body was revealing itself as something far more complex, a living repository of cosmic knowledge, a technological ecosystem that defied traditional understanding of planetary science. "We are being evaluated," Krall stated, his suit's sensors picking up subtle energy fluctuations. "Not threatened. Assessed." Lena nodded. The moon was testing them, testing their capacity to understand, to adapt, to comprehend something far beyond their current technological and cognitive limitations. As the crystalline structures continued to shift and merge, creating ever more complex interfaces, Lena and Krell found themselves at the center of a cosmic convergence. Two species brought together by chance, and now witnesses to a revelation that would challenge everything they understood about the universe. The moon of Omega 742c was no longer just a destination. It had become a gateway to what neither of them could yet comprehend. Crucible of trust. The transformation of their environment continued, but something had changed. The moon's energy patterns began to display a more aggressive oscillation, signaling an impending threat that neither Lena nor Krell could immediately identify. "Incoming signal," Krell's exosuit suddenly announced, its communication matrix picking up a distant but powerful energy signature. "Unidentified vessel approaching. Threat level critical." Lena's hands moved quickly across the available systems, her military training kicking into high gear. "Not from your people?" she asked, glancing at Krell. "Negative," he responded, the translation matrix conveying a hint of concern. "Quantum signature suggests an entirely different origin." The moon's crystalline structures began to shift more aggressively. What had once seemed like a passive, almost curious entity now appeared to be preparing for defense. Holographic projections flickered to life around them, showing complex battle strategies and technological schematics that suggested the moon was far more than a simple planetary body. A massive energy surge erupted outside. The distant vessel, now clearly visible through the ship's damaged sensors, was unlike anything Lena had ever encountered. Its design suggested a technology so advanced it bordered on the incomprehensible. Sharp, angular, with a dark iridescent surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "The Void Collectors," Krull muttered, his suit's translation matrix carrying a weight of historical context. "We thought they were a myth." Lena's scientific mind raced. "Explain," she demanded, her voice cutting through the mounting tension. Krull's response came quickly. "A species that harvests planetary intelligence. They don't conquer, they consume. Entire civilizations, planetary ecosystems, technological archives, all reduced to raw energy." The moon's defensive mechanisms began to activate. Massive energy barriers formed, creating a complex network of protective interfaces. But the approaching vessel seemed unimpressed, cutting through initial defensive layers with terrifying efficiency. "We need a plan," Lena said, her mind already working through potential strategies. "Your technology, my adaptability. We can't let them succeed." Krull's suit ran rapid calculations. Conventional resistance is futile. The Void Collectors possess technological capabilities beyond our comprehension. Lena's eyes narrowed. Humans aren't known for conventional resistance. The ship around them began to reconfigure. The moon was integrating their vessel into its own defensive systems, creating a hybrid technological entity that defied standard understanding. Crystalline structures merged with the ship's remaining systems, creating interfaces that pulsed with an almost living energy. "They're giving us a chance," Lena realized, watching as complex technological pathways formed around them. "The moon, it's not just defending itself, it's offering us a way to fight back." Krull's suit detected the changes. Probability of success, 12.7%. A smile crossed Lena's face. "Those are better odds than most humans start with." The Void Collector's vessel drew closer. Its weapon systems began to charge. Massive energy conduits that could strip entire planetary systems of their fundamental essence. But the moon of Omega 742c was no ordinary target. As the first energy wave approached, Lena and Krull found themselves at the center of a technological maelstrom. Two species, brought together by chance, now stood as the last line of defense against a threat that had consumed countless civilizations. The crucible of trust was about to be tested. The battle for Omega 742c was about to begin. Resonance of hope. The moment of confrontation arrived with a silence more deafening than any explosion. The Void Collector's vessel hung in space, a predatory shadow against the moon's crystalline surface. Lena and Krull stood united, their unlikely alliance transformed into humanity's last line of defense. "The moon is integrating our technologies," Krull observed, his exosuit's sensors working overtime. "It's creating something entirely new." Lena's fingers danced across improvised control interfaces. Fragments of human engineering merged with Vornak technological principles, all guided by the moon's mysterious intelligence. "We're not just defending," she realized. "We're evolving." The Void Collector's first energy wave struck with apocalyptic precision. But instead of destruction, something extraordinary happened. The moon's crystalline structures absorbed the attack, transforming destructive energy into a complex network of defensive capabilities. "Adaptive resonance," Lena muttered, her scientific mind racing to comprehend the phenomenon. "They're turning the attack into a form of communication." Krull's suit translated the energy patterns. What appeared to be an assault was actually a form of complex linguistic exchange. The Void Collectors were attempting to understand, to categorize, to consume. But Omega 742c had other plans. The moon began to pulse with an energy that defied known physical laws. Crystalline formations created intricate geometric patterns that seemed to tell a story, the history of countless civilizations, the potential of unexplored cosmic intelligence. They're showing their entire history, Krull said, wonder breaking through his typically measured tone. Every civilization they've encountered, every technological breakthrough. Lena understood the strategy. Not just defense. A challenge. A demonstration of collective intelligence. The Void Collector's vessel began to change. Its dark, absorptive surface started to fracture, revealing layers of complexity that suggested a form of consciousness far different from what they had initially perceived. Communication happened not through words, but through energy. Waves of information passed between the moon and the alien vessel, a dialogue of technological evolution that transcended spoken language. They're negotiating, Lena realized, not fighting. Krell's response was immediate. Correction. They're learning. Hours passed in what seemed like moments. The moon of Omega 742c transformed from a potential battleground to a cosmic meeting point. The Void Collector's vessel gradually changed, its aggressive posture softening into something more contemplative. As the final energy exchanges concluded, Lena and Krell found themselves at the center of a profound moment of cosmic understanding. The moon had used their combined technologies, human adaptability and Vornak precision, to communicate something fundamental about collective intelligence. "We were never the target," Krell said, his suit's translation matrix carrying a tone of revelation. "We were the bridge." Lena nodded, understanding dawning. Their unexpected encounter had become something more than a mission of survival. It was a testament to the power of cooperation, of finding common ground in the most impossible of circumstances. As the Void Collector's vessel began to retreat, it left behind more than just a memory. It carried with it a new understanding, that intelligence is not about conquest, but about connection. The moon of Omega 742c continued to pulse, a silent guardian of cosmic knowledge, and Lena, Reyes, and Krell stood as witnesses to a moment that would change everything. Humanity's first true step into a larger, more complex universe had begun.